She pointed her finger at me like I was a criminal and screamed, "You can't build that fence." I stood calm, heart steady, unaware she had no idea I already owned every property on this block. Police cars roared down the street, lights flashing, sirens screaming, and HOA trucks piled in behind. Karen thought fear could control me. She didn't know I owned every property here. Every rule she tried to enforce was meaningless. Every shout, every threat, about to collapse under the weight of law, preparation, and the truth. It wasn't just another sunny afternoon. It was a battlefield disguised as a quiet street. Tires crunched over gravel as my truck rolled up, carrying tools, plans, and every intention to mark what was legally mine. The fence I was building was simple, practical, a boundary no one had right to question. Then she appeared, Karen, the HOA president, storming toward me with fire in her eyes, clipboard swinging violently. She stopped just short of the truck, fingers jabbing at my chest. "You can't do that," she yelled. "That's against HOA rules." I raised my hands, calm but firm. "I'm not under your HOA," I said, letting the words hang in the air like a loaded gun. Her jaw dropped, then snapped shut. Fingers trembling, she reached for her phone. I knew what was coming. 5 police cars screeched down the street, sirens blaring, tires screeching to a stop in front of my property. Officers leapt out, scanning the scene like they were entering a war zone. "Sir, what's happening here?" One officer asked, wary. "Nothing." I said, "She called you because she wanted to intimidate me, but she no longer has authority here." I paused, letting the silence sink in, then casually added, "Oh, and I own every property on this block. Every deed, every house, it's mine." Her face paled. Officers glanced at each other, confused but alert. The street went silent. Phones came out. Windows opened, neighbors peeked, drawn to the spectacle like moths to a flame. Karen's empire of control, the shouting, the pointing, the intimidation, was crumbling in real time. I smiled faintly, steady hands gripping my tools. Today, fear was about to lose. The morning tension had only thickened. Karen's face, once a mask of confidence, now twisted with disbelief and rage. Her hands trembled as she waved the clipboard like it could magically restore her authority. The police officers shifted uneasily, caught between the HOA president's furious claims and the mountain of legal truth I now carried in my calm demeanor. "Step back," I said firmly, every word measured. "This is my property. You have no authority here." Karen's voice cracked, high and frantic. You can't. I enforce the rules. Everyone obeys me." I shook my head, letting a small smile form. "Not anymore." As the officers watched, I pulled out the deeds neatly organized, each one stamped, signed, and verified. One by one, I displayed the proof that the entire block, the homes, the lawns, the street itself, legally belonged to me. The officers leaned in, scanning the documents, their expressions shifting from suspicion to cautious understanding. Neighbors had gathered, peeking from windows and porches. Phones emerged, recording every second. Children whispered behind fences, curious eyes wide. Karen's furious pacing became almost comical under the weight of reality. She had tried to rule through fear and intimidation, but here, legality and preparation were the true authority. "Everything here," I said, pointing to the street, "every house, every lot, every inch. You have no say. Step back." Karen lunged, desperate, trying to block the truck as it rolled toward the street. I raised a hand, calm but firm, and the officers intercepted her, holding her just long enough to show the futility of her fight. "Your intimidation ends now," I said. "This isn't personal. It's about law and order, about preparation and knowing your rights." Her face flushed with humiliation, and the street murmured approval. The neighbors, long subject to her petty commands and endless threats, now whispered to each other with visible relief. Some clapped quietly. Others shook their heads in disbelief at the spectacle they had witnessed. The moving truck rolled smoothly down the block, boxes being placed into the homes now legally mine. Each step, each motion of my family was deliberate, a demonstration that authority isn't given, it's earned, defended, and executed with precision. Karen's frantic shouts became background noise, her empire of fear collapsing silently but completely. The police officers, having confirmed the legality of my claims, stepped back, their hands relaxed from their belts. They had come expecting confrontation but found none. only the undeniable weight of preparation and the unshakable foundation of law. I finally let out a slow breath, watching Karen's shoulders slump. Her voice, once commanding and oppressive, had been replaced by stunned silence. The street had been flipped, not with force, but with the quiet certainty of knowledge and preparation. Today, everyone witnessed the truth. Fear is fragile, law is strong, and patience with precision always wins. And just like that, Karen realized the fight was over. Her threats, her shouting, her attempts to control the block. They had failed completely, and the neighborhood, they would never again be ruled by fear. The tension in the air finally began to lift, though the memory of Karen's shrill protests lingered like a shadow. She stood frozen on the curb, clutching her clipboard, eyes darting between the moving truck and the neighbors who had gathered to witness her downfall. The street, once her kingdom, was now undeniably mine. I stepped down from the truck, every movement deliberate, calm and assured. My family followed, carrying boxes, placing them carefully into the homes. Each step was a statement: order over chaos, preparation over fear, truth over intimidation. Karen's lips quivered. She tried to speak, to muster some argument, some shred of authority, but the words wouldn't come. The weight of the law, the clear legality of ownership, and the silent judgment of the neighborhood rendered her powerless. Neighbors peeked from windows, some smiling in disbelief, others shaking their heads at the spectacle. Phones recorded every second, every detail. The quiet whispers of those who had once feared her now filled with relief, excitement, and admiration. They were witnessing the collapse of tyranny, the triumph of preparation, and the unwavering power of knowing your rights. I approached the center of the street, holding the deeds in hand like a shield of truth. Everything here, I said, voice steady and clear. Every property on this block belongs to me. You have no authority, no control, and no way to stop this. Karen's shoulders slumped. The clipboard hit the pavement with a hollow thud. Her empire, built on fear, gossip, and petty rules, had evaporated under the sunlight. The street that had trembled under her commands now breathed freely. Even the officers, who had arrived expecting confrontation, now looked on with quiet acknowledgement. Their hands relaxed from their belts. They understood the fight had never been about them. It had been about knowledge, preparation, and the quiet but undeniable authority of law. As the moving trucks rolled down the street, and my family settled into the properties now legally ours, I took a slow breath. The air smelled of dust, sunlight, and the faint tang of victory. Freedom, respect, and control are never given. They are earned. Today, that lesson had been made crystal clear. Karen finally muttered something incomprehensible and turned away, defeated. The street would never again bow to her petty rules. Her reign of intimidation was over. I stood in the middle of the block, the warm sun casting long shadows over the homes I now owned, and smiled quietly. Authority isn't about fear. It's about preparation. It's about standing firm, knowing your rights, and letting truth speak louder than threats. Today, the street had been flipped. Today, tyranny had fallen, and today, justice, silent, steady, and undeniable, had finally prevailed.